Kenyon Williams, Professor of Percussion at Minnesota State University Moorhead. Today I'd like to give you some tips to help you with the 2026 North Dakota All-State Jazz Drum Set audition portion. Now, some tips I would give any student working on this right off the bat would be take your time and make sure you can play through the excerpt with good swing time, hi-hat on 2 and 4, and your left hand on snare playing the kicks just straight down. Start slow. The piece is actually at 184, which is challenging. Start much slower. Not only that, but always practice with that metronome. So even though you may not start at 184, start at something a little more reasonably going with, maybe 120. And I would play just the first few bars to get comfortable, give myself a bar or two of time, and then I'm going to play the first few bars, left hand on snare, like this. 3, 4. Got my time, feeling good, a right cymbal, a hi-hat, and now I'm going to play the first few bars. Okay, once I can do that comfortably all the way through the etude, then I'm going to start experimenting with adding some fills, adding some colors. Eventually, of course, I'll work my way up to 184, and I'm gradually getting there, rather than trying to jump immediately from 120 to 184. But I want to make sure I can play through this whole etude comfortably. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a good idea to develop independence to do that not only with my snare drum, but with my bass drum as well. So can I do this? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then finally, can I alternate back and forth for a little extra layer of challenge? 1, 2, 3, 4. Once I can do all of that really comfortably, I'm in a great place to really be able to now create some creative fills and know that I'm right in time with the kicks on the page. Now, a word of advice when it comes to fills. Make sure, or your kicks I should say, make sure when you're playing the notated kicks, try to match the length of the sound to the actual length of the note on the page. In other words, at the very beginning, when the first thing we see at letter H is a long note. On a drum set, that's not a long note. That's not a long note. That's kind of long, but in the context of a fill, it comes off short. What is a long note? A good solid crash. So the first sound we really do want to hear is a nice little kick right into that crash. And by the way, for the audition, you don't want to start. Rather, you actually want to think like a jazz drum set player would think. So if I got my pulse going, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. A little kick just to get things started is a good idea, and any judge listening to you will appreciate that feel to help guide the band in. Now, notice what I'm going to do. For the long notes, I'm going to be playing on my crash, or either one, and for my short notes, focusing primarily on snare, or I could use bass drum, or just a closed hi-hat. Closed hi-hat's not the best option here because I'm, of course, doing swing, or I should say the swing sound, and I want that blues swing going right there with that. If I do an open hi-hat, it's going to kind of make it long rather than short. So I focus on snare bass for my short notes. So if I were playing the first few bars then, and I add in my fills, I want to make sure my fills complement where I can have short notes here, long notes on a crash, like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Now notice that last measure right there in measure 1, 8, 9, 10, measure 11, I had that last eighth note I played as a long note. Why? The slash after it indicates it's supposed to ring and keep going. So definitely that implies a long sound.
At MSU Moorhead, we do more on campus. We do more in our classes. We do more for our community. What will you do?
Now, take that to the next chunk here at letter I. Here I have very specific short, 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 short notes. Do not play. That's not what's notated. What's notated, and if you listen to the recording, is short ba-do-da, 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 ba-do-da. What works really well right there? Simply, okay? So short, notice that hi-hat. I'm doubling that with the bass. Remember, when you hit a crash, you always want to double the crash, or in this case, the end of a kick with a hi-hat, with my bass sound, or snare. Never never just this. That always sounds empty and naked. If you want to have a good bass to it, put the snare behind it or the bass drum. So coming into I then, if I have my time going, a 1, a 2, bar before I and. Notice I add a little crash on the downbeat. I might choose to go back and maybe not do that, depending on, I need to listen to the recording again and think about what the band's doing right there at that point. Is that crash on the downbeat appropriate? It's not notated, but it might be. It might be. Okay? Now, my last little bit of advice to you on this is make sure you're using this metronome. This is your most powerful tool, the most important tool a drummer has outside of his brain and his hands is that metronome. So make sure that you are playing with whatever it takes to keep that steady time. Again, starting slow, and make sure those kicks are always in time. Practicing without a metronome is like playing tennis without a net. You're always going to think that you're the best player in the world until the minute you're playing with someone else. Suddenly that net goes up, you're hitting the net, you're going, this is so much harder than I thought it was. The metronome is the thing that will keep you solid. Keep practicing that with time. So keep that together and make sure that you're playing good solid fills that come back in onto the kick that needs to line up with them. For example, in measure 123, we lead into this big solo fill. We don't want to be 1, 2, no. We want to have something lead solidly into that pattern. 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoa, we try it again. There we go. Nice solid. So now I've got a real solid bass. Go into my longer fill that then leads the band into that. Whatever I want to do there to fill up that fermata at the end. And do fill that fermata. Don't just hit it and walk away. That's definitely a drum fill solo at the end of the tune that then wraps it up. So, good luck with this audition and take your time practicing with that metronome. Think about playing time on the ride with the snare, keeping solid kicks, and then finally add the fills then once you're really solid on that. Good luck and hope to see you at this year's 2026 North Dakota All-State.